What up, GTX crew? I'm here with Patrick and Morgan. We are going to do the ATI of our biggest episode yet, our 3-part episode. Morgan wasn't here with us for part 1, so this initial part will pretty much be me and Pat. Mariah and Adolfo couldn't make it to join us with this, so let's just jump into it. Actually, real quickly before we jump into it, we want to thank all you guys for watching it, but also we came here to film the ATI and some little things started happening, so it's kind of if you guys see something in the background in this ATI, let us know. Yeah. It's just the 3 of us here.
Yeah, this counts.
Yeah.
This counts. We still need participation.
But I'm going to let Patrick take it from here. He's got some notes on some things that we want to touch on.
Yeah, so during our first trip here back in 2019, some of the stuff that we caught on video was the picture frame during the initial walkthrough. I know we kind of talked about how it was, it was probably just a coincidence, which it probably was. Honestly, this picture frame falling was probably a coincidence. But everything that happened from that night, even until today, with stuff moving around and the bangings and the knockings, was it really coincidence? I don't know.
The more we start seeing things, it seems like maybe it was not.
And not only that, but even talking with Rebecca, who walked us through the building, the picture frame the position it was in when it fell, was definitely not the position that frame's supposed to be. And you can actually see when she picks it up and she set it against the wall, that's normally where that picture sits.
Yeah.
She has no idea why it was moved in that angle. No clue. But when it fell, she put it where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty unique too,
Yeah, I really wish we would have caught it on camera when it fell, but nobody was standing near it. Nobody was in the area. We had walked back and forth several times throughout the day before we started filming, and why all of a sudden at that very moment it fell.
There was no movement going on with any of those bookshelves or anything that was on top of them.
Yeah.
But one thing we kind of even discussed as soon as we got into jail was when we were all doing our little solo investigations in the jail when everybody went outside to wait.
Which, real quick, by the way, the solo investigation was done in this cell right here.
It was done in the cell behind you.
Right there.
It was. When Melvin was doing it, you heard a loud bang, didn't you?
Yeah, and so it's hard for you guys to get perspective. Maybe you'll be able to tell a little bit. We've got this camera running back there. But this is one set of, 4 cells right here?
Mm-hmm.
And then back behind Morgan, there's another set of 2 cells over there. And then back over there, there's like a solitary confinement, like single, double cell type deal.
Yeah, there's like double.
But when I was in here, for me, the bang sounded like it came from over there.
It did. And when I jumped into my solo investigation in the dark, we heard a loud bang. I heard a loud bang.
Yeah.
At the time, we didn't know where it came from. It was super loud. It made me jump. Okay. Now the trail cam we were using, as you know, Melvin, it only starts recording when there's movement.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish I was moving around when that bang happened.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until the bang actually happened when I started moving around
that it triggered.
And exactly. Now, after it happened, trying to figure out where that bang came from, because I knew it just sounded different. It didn't sound like one of the jail cell doors banging up against, the metal or anything like that. It just sounded a little bit different. We figured out where that noise came from, and that's what we're going to show you right now.
All right, guys, so it's a little dark in here, but that's actually closer to what it was like when Patrick was in here in the solo. Now, you are seeing a little bit of light coming through right now because as we're filming this, it's still daylight outside. So when Patrick was in here, it was pitch black outside. And what we're kind of trying to troubleshoot or review with you guys is that banging noise that Patrick heard from in here. So Patrick was about right here.
So in part 1, you'll see I was doing my spirit box session, my silent session, and it was pitch black. Kept hearing some thuds going on, real slight, nothing serious. So I kept looking around. All of a sudden, I heard a loud bang. At the time, we didn't know what that bang was. We figured it out.
Morgan, go ahead and test this one that's near us.
That noise would have been a little bit too loud from where I was standing in this cell. That same lockbox is on the opposite end of the jail, and Morgan's going to close that one now.
All right, open, closing.
Give it one more time.
We figured out what the noise from part 1 possibly is.
But what we can't figure out is how it happened. So Pat, let's walk over real quick to where Morgan's at and show them a close-up of what these lock boxes look like. So this is the first one that Morgan opened and closed. We'll go to this other one over here. What those are is that's the levers that they would use to lock and unlock the gates on each individual jail cell. Let me come over here.
All right, and this is actually a whole lot harder to close than the other one.
All right, and go ahead and open it one more time. I'll just get a shot on the inside. So these levers, you would pull these levers here, and that would be what, there was some sort of mechanism that would lock these cells shut. It no longer works. I think what Rebecca had told us is that over time they even stopped using these and just having to do some sort of a padlock or something like that because of the rust. But yeah, this is what we think was the culprit of that noise in part 1.
So that was the noise that we heard. I have no doubt that's what I heard. Multiple cameras. There was a camera downstairs that caught the same bang noise. Everybody that was outside waiting on the baby monitor, y'all heard the same thing.
He said baby monitor, not baby mama.
Not baby monitor.
It's a different kind of thing. I'm sorry.
That is awesome. We are keeping that in. The whole reason we came back and did a second investigation here was the voice, the disembodied voice that you hear at the end of the part 1.
And that took place in this, behind Patrick you see this column, and behind that column is a doorway. And that camera was set up attached to that open doorway facing towards the stairwell, and just on the other side of that wall is also what they could consider the hanging, what was it, the hanging?
Oh, it was. I guess it was the indoor gallows, I guess.
Yeah, that's where they would do the hangings. And so that voice, we couldn't tell if it was from upstairs, downstairs, where about, but it was in the realm of the stairwell.
The whole reason we were calling it a disembodied voice was the echo that you heard.
Yeah.
EVP, I mean, of course, you know, it comes from an electronic device, but it just sounded so echoey. So I know it had to have come from up here.
Yeah.
It had to. It is so echoey with these metal bars and the concrete floors and the walls, and I don't know, it was just very strange. All of us being downstairs.
Yep. And then the other thing that we did not mention, we heard it, but we were kind of leaving it up to you guys to see if y'all heard it as well, is shortly after that disembodied voice, you hear a kind of a noise. And to me, it sounds like it's like hovering right behind
Kind of like
the camera.
It's like somebody being annoyed type of like
so
moan and groan.
if you guys didn't hear that, I would say we'll throw the clip in here, but I'd rather you go back and watch the episode again. So
Watch.
Yeah, watch it.
Watch it.
But listen, just listen to it. You'll hear that voice, and then about 1 to 2 seconds, somewhere around there, you'll hear a, and it sounds like it's right over the camera.
Yeah.
If you don't hear it the first time, just kind of turn up your speakers and listen, and you'll see that it is in fact there. And we don't have an explanation for that noise either.
This ATI that we're filming tonight, as soon as we got here, we started experiencing stuff. And I want Morgan to kind of go into detail about some of this stuff that happened.
So when we first got here, it was told to us that a lot of the area is still set up for Halloween, which is why we're all crammed up here trying to film the ATI up here. But because of how many people actually turned out for Halloween, and I mean, they said that because of all the banging that was happening and, you know, everybody in here moving around, it actually busted out one of the window panes. during their haunted house. So if you think about all of that emotion and all of that energy,
Fear.
all the fear just bubbling up in these people. That it's an event here. It is their thing. So they put a lot of time and effort into making things real and scary. And if you think of all the energy that builds up, and then we come in to do our ATI, and it is a storehouse of energy. And just like Pat said, as soon as we got here, it started.
Yeah, we had a quick catch up with Rebecca and her husband, just kind of recapping and getting a chat with them with their thoughts about the episode. And one of the discussions that came up again was the cigarette scent.
Yes.
And so apparently it's been a recurring theme here that people smell cigarette smoke. And so we were chatting about that, and to go a little deeper, I had COVID in March, and when I was talking to them, I was like, one of the things that happened with me is my sense of smell and taste has gone away quite a bit. And what did you know? The first time the first thing I do is I go into the restroom before we start setting up, and immediately while I'm going to the restroom, I'm like, Morgan, Patrick, come here. I need to get off this toilet. I think it smells like cigarette smoke in here. Y'all come in here and smell before it goes away. Mm-hmm. And you guys smelled it too, right?
Yeah.
It was apparent. There was cigarette smoke you could smell. And this is a non-smoking facility, by the way, y'all.
Yeah.
There's no reason anybody should be smoking inside or even around the grounds. So just to experience that, especially right after we heard the stories.
Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't a very. So I come from a family of smokers. I personally don't smoke. I tell them to go outside of the house. That's where they can smoke. I don't like the smell on me, but I don't smell it. I've gone nose blind to cigarette smoke. And then with Melvin just getting over COVID and everything, and having those symptoms still of not being able to smell everything entirely, he was still able to smell it. And I walked in and it smelled like an older stale tobacco, like a hand-rolled cigarette. It wasn't as potent as a pack of cigarettes or
Like
something.
that you're purchasing off the shelf.
Yeah. I tasted. It smelled very stale.
Yeah. And the smell was lingering. We even went outside of the building to make sure that there was nothing near the window or anything from the exterior that could have a scent coming through. Nothing out there at all. Come back in, and then that smell was still, and it's in a very exact spot in the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then also getting ready to set up for this ATI upstairs in the cell area. Getting everything together to carry upstairs. What happened to me, which I'm still kind of bothered by.
That burning.
I picked up a tub. I felt immediately, as soon as I picked up this tub, I started turning around the corner to walk to the stairs, a burning sensation on my back. Didn't bring me to my knees, but I definitely had to drop what I was carrying just to compose myself. It was Melvin's idea to check my back. You did get some photos. Correct?
Yeah, we took some photos and videos. If it is good enough quality, we will go ahead and insert it. I think it should be good enough that you can see it. Like, you could see it more to our eye than you could on the screen. But I think once I have it on a computer screen.
And this lingering, and it lingered for a good 20 minutes. But as soon as we got upstairs and got everything set up, Morgan actually saw something. I would like for you to explain.
Yeah, so I was setting up with them, and I turned off all the lights, and I was going around to each of the rooms with the cells. I made it to this back one, turned off the light, I walked out, came around the corner, and as I was walking, I looked up and I could see the arm of a person kind of sway, like they were walking, just right in front of me. And I almost feel like the way in which it was moving, it was very comfortable with what it was doing. It was very purposeful, kind of like walk.
Like repetitive.
Yeah. Like I had said to Patrick, I think it might be, a guard or one of the sheriffs or something like that. Or, residual energy of something that just happened every single day. Mm-hmm. Somebody walking up the stairs and walking by that doorway. And I just so happened to be walking around the corner at the same time, and I was able to catch it. And I immediately just like,
That did happen.
I stopped and I was like, "Did you guys hear me?" Just gasped. I just saw somebody, and I mean, it was very real and tangible. Like I could see the arm and kind of the hips and the leg, and I couldn't see, anything past probably.
Well, and you said it was actually going through the door,
Yeah.
into the room. So,
Yeah.
you saw the back end of whatever was walking in.
Yep.
That's basically what happened.
Yep.
Man, and I know we're getting kind of sidetracked because we wanted to talk about part 2,
Yeah.
which we are. So, as soon as we got back for our second visit, same thing. Didn't have time to even set up everything before stuff started happening. We had that jail cell door fly open. I just wish, if y'all ever get a chance to come to this jail, the first place you need to go is that intake door. I want every one of y'all to feel how heavy this door is.
It's solid steel.
It is
Yeah.
solid. And
It's heavy and it's not easy to push back and forth.
because it's hard for us to explain how heavy this door really is.
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, it's a jail.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not meant to move easily, even
Yeah.
to a human being. These
Yeah.
are steel bars and walls and doors that are meant to not move ever.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, the fact that it even slammed as hard as it did, which, I mean, like we said, it was unfortunate that we didn't catch it, but that's how it always goes.
Yeah.
It's, I should have turned the camera on, or it was right there, I should have done that, but
And the reason the camera wasn't running is it was literally 3 hours before we were planning to start the investigation. We were just trying to set everything up.
yeah.
And we were going over like game planning in the other room of like, we should set this up over here, and we should do this over there, and put these cameras in this room, let's set these lights up over there. Like, we were just trying to figure things out. We didn't even know.
We were chit
We didn't even think to hit record.
I
And we didn't hit record yet also because we already knew that we were planning to stay till 3 or 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And this was at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, it was late.
it's like 3, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so we knew that if we started recording that early on all of our devices, a couple of things would happen. Our batteries would all be run out. We would probably run out of space on the memory cards. And then it's just a ton of evidence to review. Speaking of review, man, I do most of the editing, but Patrick and Morgan do like 99% of the review of all the content.
Yeah.
They're the ones that go through all the video, all the audio, detailed notes, and find everything, and then we make a group decision on what we feel is the strongest evidence to put forward into the actual.
So just imagine having 20 cameras running and each camera having
8 hours or so.
8 hours. Do the math.
Yeah, and it's not things that you can just like scrub through either.
You gotta
Going
watch
into it, going into it, I was like, oh yeah, you can just go through and see if the picture. No, because things can be so minute and small, and if you just like for sound, for example, if you have the ability to enhance it, I mean, the message that we got, near the stairs, the hanging door.
Yeah, I had to enhance it to be able to make it out.
But it
once
was
it was
there.
enhanced, it was clearly there.
Yeah, it was there. And if you don't have your full attention and focus on what you're doing, what you're reviewing, you might miss something like that. I mean, even us setting up, we're doing our own thing, daylight. I mean, we're just minding our own business, and just things are happening all around us. And you don't even really have to try to catch anything. It just happens.
Yeah, and Pat and I were talking too, and I think, we want to go visit some other places, but we know we're going to come back and do another investigation here.
Oh yeah, GTX will be back at
Yeah.
the San Jacinto County Jail.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So what do we got next there?
So basically, what we were just talking about stuff moving, let's talk about that curtain moving too.
Yeah, man.
And that's not that far from the restroom where the smoke is.
That's very true. So the funny thing about that curtain is we thought at that point, we were like, all right, I think we've reviewed everything. We found all the evidence that we're going to put into these episodes. And then I don't know what compelled Patrick to go back and like look at some more video.
I can actually tell you, so during the
I
editing-
missed it.
It's okay. It is okay, because you know what? I missed it too. I was actually looking for a clip to add on. This was during the editing process. There was a clip that I had in mind, so I was just looking for just extra footage to use.
Like B-roll, basically.
Some B-roll. And it was at the beginning of the clip. I mean, it was 15 seconds into it, and it caught my eye immediately, and I want to say the first thing I did before I even pushed pause was I was messaging both of y'all. Get to your computer ASAP.
This is like, what, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night or something like that? I don't even
Yeah.
remember. That's what's funny. Every time we end up finding something good, it's like midnight. We're like, hey, you awake?
Yeah. And that's when I knew, you know what, I need to look more into this. I want to know when this happened. So thank goodness we have 20 cameras running, like I said. So we were able to line up everything. And that's when we found out that around that exact time is when I was outside messing with the trail cam in front of the school.
Yep. I don't usually get creeped out that easily. And that was one of those clips that, like, when I watched it back and I slowed it down and everything, and, you know, I was like, what the heck? That was right behind me. You know, like, well, it was about 10 feet behind me. But still, I was like, what was there looking over my shoulder, and, you know, me and Clay, and we had no clue. We had no clue that it's weird, and we've theorized a bunch of different ways we think, but the height of where the curtain was pulled back, it almost looks like the height of, like, if a kid or something was, like,
It really was.
holding
Yeah.
the curtain back, and then it let it go, and it fluttered back into position, you know? I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. But it was one of those clips, man, that was just like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then we can even follow that up with the craziness that was happening behind me, which I'm still going to. I don't know if there's a trap door in this damn school. I don't know if there's like.
We were looking at it in daylight, but we want to get a better glimpse of it at nighttime to try to see like a true reenactment of it. But
Yeah, we're definitely gonna do that. We're gonna throw this up on here also, so you can check it out. But I think the main thing was having no features. If that was a person, why was there no features?
yeah, it was like a straight up shadow. You know, like it wasn't.
Did you see the movement? How fast
It was. There was no depth to it. You know.
Yeah.
It just looked flat, and
Yeah,
that's what was
it
kind of
did.
weird about it. You know, and that's why we even did is I flipped it to the negative version, so to try to get a different perspective of it to see if we could see any definition, any kind of lines, and it's
And
really
there's
just the
nothing.
outline, and it's weird. It's really weird.
And even in that negative, you know, with you zooming in as much as you did in the negative frame, it kind of looked like maybe a cowboy hat was being worn. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Speaking of which, so we're gonna throw a photo up real quick, and this is the photo that Clay had showed us in the display case downstairs. Now, it was hard for us to try to get good video of that, and we didn't even know that it was gonna be anything relative, so we didn't take much time to capture it. But while we're here right now, I went ahead and snapped a picture of it, and it almost looks similar to that same outline in the schoolhouse.
it
that
really
they
does.
captured here.
That's freaky.
And it looks like the old traditional sheriff, cowboy style, almost sheriff's hat.
And one last thing I want to bring up about part 2, Morgan doing her fantastic research that she does.
Oh yeah.
Finding the Alfred article.
Yes.
Now, explain that. Tell us how you found that and what you did to find that.
So, through lots and lots and lots of digging through tons of different newspaper articles, some weren't even in the state of Texas. Going through not only the footage and finding the article that was on display, which hopefully you were able to catch, but the name was Alf Watson. So I was able to actually go back into the newspaper archives, and I actually found a archive of that day of when Alfred Watson, was hung. And during the investigation, we had absolutely no idea that that name was going to mean anything.
Yep.
I mean, it's such a very unique name.
Yeah.
You know, that's not something that you would hear just on a blip. So by finding that, it kind of really resonated with me that it's like, these were real people.
Yeah. And while we're talking about that, those silence or headphone spirit box sessions took place in where Morgan's sitting right now. She's sitting halfway in that cell.
Yep.
And that's where we did our first headphone sessions. Was in there. And that's where the Alfred came up, and I think it was
Seven.
lemon. Was it knife? No.
Yes. No. Sharp.
Sharp. I think collectively in here we only had 8 or 10 words.
Yeah.
I attribute that to a few different things. I think it was maybe there just is less going on in the jail than there was in the school. It was way earlier in the day when we were doing that here in the jail. And at the school we were, everything ramped up between 2 and 3 a.m., especially after 3 a.m. So it'd be interesting to do another session here, but do it at that 2 to 3 a.m. hour. Because everything we've done in the jail has typically been rounded out by around midnight or so.
It has.
Because our first visit, we didn't even stay past midnight, or around midnight, I think. Our last visit, we were here till after, around 4 a.m. after we finished packing everything up, but we were at the schoolhouse for the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, and this is technically part of part 3, but we're currently sitting in the jail, and there's a clip, 2 clips in part 3 that actually took place here. And so the first part of it is when Patrick saw like a shadow, right?
Yeah, there was some blockage from one of the windows going, obviously to the outside. I thought there might have been some tree branches moving around or something that was, blocking the light. But the angle I was at, well, first of all, there was no tree out there. We found out later.
There was nothing that would have,
nothing.
No obstruction outside of the windows.
No, and really composing myself and really thinking after this happened, okay, this was actually more of a blockage that was in the hallway, not coming from outside.
Well, not only that, the angle of where the window is in comparison to where you saw something, it's an impossible angle. Like, there's no way that the light could have come from a window.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
And just to kind of give you perspective of what Patrick's saying is, imagine you're sitting in a house or a room, and you've got light shining through a window, and that light is hitting a spot on the wall. And then you see that light go dark, right?
Yes.
So Patrick's initial idea was that maybe something outside of the building obstructed the view of the light and caused that blockage. But what we discovered later, we're on the 2nd floor first off. So there was nothing that could have obstructed that view. So if something was to pass in front and block that light, it would have to be inside the building.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what you saw, in part 3, what Melvin was talking about, is me just kind of explaining to Melvin what I saw, and then when Melvin was actually reviewing some of the 360 footage, what did you find?
Yeah, so that was kind of, one of those funny ones. Like, they've responsible for reviewing most of it, but since this was a new camera I'd just gotten, and I was the only one that had the little viewer for that, so I was just bored one night. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm just kind of scrubbing through, and with this, since it was, there was a chance that if I was scrubbing too quickly, I could miss something audible. But I was just really trying to see if there was anything visible in the clips, and so I was just doing like a fast scrub. And when I was doing it, I don't remember if it was the 2nd video, 3rd video, however many in it was. I saw something that had like movement, and I was like, hold up, what's going on here? Let me roll that back again. And I did it 2 or 3 times until I was like, well, there's absolutely something here. And in the entire 30 minutes or so of those clips, it never happened any other time, right? Which, by the way, we are going to put all of those 360 clips up uncut on our channel for you guys to look through, do whatever you want. You'll be able to see every direction. See if you find something that maybe we missed. But that 360 camera was sitting right here, and so it had a view of these 4 cells, and then directly behind Morgan is where Patrick and I were sitting in that other cell in part 1, and so that black mass originated inside of that cell and pushed through the back of the cell and down the hallway where Patrick and I would have been, which is exactly where that light would have been coming through on the wall that Patrick saw.
Also, that is right where I was walking from when I turned the corner and saw.
Today.
Yep,
Oh,
and saw
yes.
what I think to be a guard or a sheriff, or it was right here that I walked through. And to me, it seems like that area is a very particularly hot spot.
Yeah, and especially considering right down there too is where we believe that
That's exactly
lockbox.
Same room.
Same spot.
Same room.
Yes, that you saw a few moments ago. That's the same area.
Yeah. So, did we have anything else to cover here in the jail, or?
No, now we're gonna head over to the schoolhouse and we're gonna pick up the Part 3 ATI there. So
Yeah, I'm gonna be cheesy. Okay.
Oh.
All right, guys. Class is in session.
Okay.
yes, it is.
We're in the schoolhouse, and we're just gonna kind of dive into everything. You know, most of the stuff that took place here happened between that 2 and 3 a.m. or a little bit beyond 3 a.m. hour.
Oh yeah.
There's not a whole lot to really cover in here, other than a couple small things.
Yeah, because I mean, it was all apparent. I mean, everything in Part 3 of the episode. I mean, you saw firsthand.
Yeah. One thing we did do before we started recording, and I'm just now realizing, Patrick got shocked by the well, we thought at the time, because it was dark, we thought it was a typewriter, but it was actually a cash register.
An old cash register.
And we walked back, and it's back behind that way. You might be able to see that. Nope, not on any of these camera angles. But back in that room over there, and there's no electricity or a plug that we could find on that cash register.
Yeah.
So could have been purely coincidental, but usually if you're going to get shocked, you would have to have carpet on the floor.
Yeah, some kind of static.
Conductor.
Yeah.
And everything here's wood.
And it was alarming enough to me that it made me stop and say, I think I said GD. Matter of fact.
Yeah, I think you dropped an F-bomb and we muted it out.
Yeah.
For the kids that watch our channel, you know?
Yeah, I might have. My bad. Sorry.
But yeah, so that was one thing we want, you know, like we didn't put a whole lot of emphasis on it in the episode.
Yeah, there was so much going on at the time.
Yeah, but it was something that Patrick wanted to go back and check out and be like, hey, is there a power source to that thing? And
I thought faulty wiring. There was an exposed wire or something. It was when I was hitting the number 3 on the cash register.
Yeah.
That's when you kept
saying
saying the number 3. Yeah.
Yep.
And from my perspective right now, and I can see straight back into that room, even though it's fairly dark, and it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I can see. I think there's about 10 of them though, of the different cash registers or typewriters or whatever they are. And none of them are plugged in. None of them have power running to them.
No, and I mean, they're all old and rusted and haven't been used in years.
Yeah, God knows how long.
Yeah. One thing we didn't really explain is that this side, what you can see behind Morgan, I believe. Okay, yeah, you can see a white lattice wall behind Morgan. From that side over to here, this is basically the classroom. And then beyond that wall is just a collection of artifacts from the area, from anybody that's donated things. Some of it's outdoor yard and farming equipment. So that, you know, we've got the registers back there. It's just a collection of anything that people will donate. So the only reason I bring that up is we were focusing mostly on the classroom. And it sounds, I feel weird saying this in third person because it was me talking, but it was really me passing a message through me to you guys. And it was really weird watching that back and seeing that we had like this quite lengthy conversation.
Yeah.
But all I was hearing was one side of it. So it was really interesting to watch that play back and see how that played out. But it was very insistent on going to that side. So leaving the classroom side and going to the artifact or the collection of items side. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's any meaning behind it, but it is kind of strange that it was trying to get you to move from one side of the building to the other.
And trying to get Morgan to move back.
Yeah.
Specifically more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so earlier in the day, I had actually come in here and set up the bells that we used. During that time, you know, I'm kind of looking around for a place to hang them, and there really wasn't a good spot unless I had a nail so I could hang it in the doorway. And I thought, okay, well, you know, on the artifact side of it, they have some knickknacks hanging. So I thought, okay, maybe there might be a nail I could use. And something stopped me, like right in the doorway. You can't see it, but this turns into like an open space that I'm sure you've seen in the episode.
And real quickly, what we'll do is as soon as we're done here, we're going to throw up a clip right now so that you can see what that side of the room looks like.
Kind of see what she's explaining.
Yeah.
So I had actually stopped in the doorway. And I did not step past that doorway when I was looking for something to hang the bells on.
And it was just completely unintentional. You just
Yeah, and I didn't realize it until later. that it was almost like a wall was put up, and I stopped, and I remember thinking, I'll just peek in. And so like I leaned in and looked around. I was like, nope, no nails, no nothing. There's nothing in there for me, and hung them on the desk. But I didn't even tell anybody really about that until later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The explaining for me, when we were initially doing the blind spirit box sessions in the jail, the first time I did it, and it had that difference of the noise, and if y'all watched the episode, you already heard me explain the difference between the right?
Yeah.
But when we were in the jail and we had that my very first session, I feel like I honestly kind of got put into sort of like a trance where I was literally like,
oh, it's draining.
nodding off, falling asleep. But then we switched it, I don't remember if it was AM to FM or FM
It
to
was
AM.
FM to AM.
Yeah, so whenever we switched, and that's what made that difference in the noise, and then that's when we started getting more activity and things changed. What I was telling Patrick and Morgan and Clay off camera, and because I don't think it's on camera, but I was just literally repeating the words as I heard them. So when my voice got more aggressive and my tone changed, I didn't even realize in the moment that I was even actually doing that. I got to a level of where I was just a conduit. Like the words were coming into my ears and out my mouth exactly as I was hearing them. And so even when I watched it back, I felt like, man, that's so weird. Like I didn't even realize I was changing the tone of my voice. I didn't realize that I was getting kind of aggressive with my wording. Like I was just absorbing it and pushing it straight back out.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a weird thing for me watching it back. I was like, this is strange. But what Morgan was saying too about it, you know, sucking the energy out of you, everything we had done leading up to that point, yes, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm a night owl. My average bedtime is 3 to 5 a.m., right? So being up late is not a big deal. Doing all the setup and everything we did for this episode was not a big deal. But I felt literally drained after that last session. Like I just had zero energy, and I feel like it was just because there was so much coming in and going back out that it just sucked all the energy out of me.
Yeah, I was really, this being my first ever investigation, it's the first time I had used a spirit box in any kind of way, and I had no idea how draining that it is. And it is, you feel the physical impact of it.
And it was our first time doing the silent spirit box or the headphone spirit box or whatever you want to call it. And what's that group? There's a name
The
for it.
Estes method.
Estes method, yeah. So it was our first time doing the Estes method.
I looked that up. I researched that.
Yes, ma'am.
So I feel like the Estes method, it's different in that where when you just have a speaker, maybe it's not using you as the conduit as much as when you have the headphones on, because you become that path of how the message gets relayed.
Yeah, and you know what? And we're going to try to work on a way to for you to hear what we hear with the headphones on. We're going to figure out a way to where it could be recorded, so that way you can hear what we hear. So you know that there's no false wording on our part or anything. But
Yeah.
You might have seen Melvin or Morgan or myself doing the headphone session. There might have been some times where we were kind of like looking a little weird, trying to understand, trying to pick up what was being said, because like Melvin said, it was coming in so fast.
Yeah.
There were a lot of words that I know I couldn't pick up fast enough.
Yeah.
So I basically just spurting out words that I knew, that I understood, that I knew for a fact that's what that word was.
And there were times too where things were coming in very loud and clear.
Yeah.
And some things were faint, And,
Yeah,
and
it
so
was-
when we were kind of leaning in, for me anyways, that was when it was that faint moment. It's like I could hear something saying something, but I can't really quite make it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like whenever I was hearing it, it's like if while I was on the stage, there were a group of people in front of me, and just whoever was the loudest were the people who were up front. But
Yeah.
like you could hear them almost like at a distance.
It's a good way to put it. Like
Yeah,
a classroom full of children. That's
Oh, yeah.
another thing.
This is like a goofy way of associating this, but it makes me feel like, if you watch The Walking Dead and there's those moments where they're in the middle and they get completely surrounded and there's all these zombies coming in at them at once, right? And then, I'm not saying that, spirits, ghosts, whatever, are zombies.
Exactly.
But for all we know, we're surrounded and everybody's just fighting to get to us and
Yeah,
give
they
us
see
their
a way
message.
to communicate, and
Yeah, so
everybody's scrounging.
when I was hearing that, the do it now, do it now, do it, that wasn't one voice. I was hearing multiple voices coming through, and it just became more aggressive and more like forceful, and so that's where like that zombie idea is like they're just pushing to the front to try to get their voice through. And I look back at it that way. In the moment, again, there were no visuals in my mind. I was just completely zoned out, and I was just a speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like you said, it was our first time doing it. We did it in the jail. It wasn't that active in the jail.
Yeah.
You know, we came to the school and it just blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way to put it.
I wasn't expecting what happened to happen. Not only just like all the intelligent responses that we got, but the way that it would guide us to do things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the episode, this investigation really did affect me.
Yeah.
Like personally, in a very physical, mental, emotional way. We've been kind of laughing about how when I have like my mid breakdown and Melvin says, "Do you want us to stop recording?" And Melvin stops, but Patrick doesn't, which I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in the moment, I had no idea that was happening.
Yeah.
But what I had heard, a lot of people have asked, you know, what exactly it was, and whatever I heard was the most darkest thing. I get shaky even talking about it or going back to that space. The darkest growling talk I have ever experienced. And in that very second, it's almost like I was touched.
Yeah.
And
the words came through. So.
Well, and it was like in that moment that it touched me is when I got all of these feelings and emotions that, I mean, I've never had before. And it was the blackest of black, the darkest of dark, and you're helpless and hopeless and you know nothing is coming to save you. And you're alone and it's cold and it's dark and it was just a quick second.
Yeah, it's like an instantaneous, and you have all that.
It's like you felt bum rushed. Just kind of.
It just. I mean, even now, just remembering that dark place is just terrifying.
Yeah.
And it was very unexpected.
In touching on that too, one of the things. Okay, so there were some clips that Patrick and I discovered, and I said, you know what? Let's hold off. Let's not put these into the episode. Let's hold these for the ATI. And it was when we were in the jail cell when we were doing the Estes method. Can you give us a number?
Better yet, can you touch her on the shoulder? Can you walk by the jail cell behind her?
Can you whisper her name in her ear? Her name is Morgan. And there's a part in there where we said, I told it, I was like, hey, say Morgan's name in her ear, right? Again, not really thinking much of it. But later on, there's only one of our names that came up in the headphones for all three of us.
Yes.
And it was your name, right? There was also a clip in there while we were wrapping up and you were joking and you were like, if you want to come touch me or scratch me, you can. If you want to do this, whatever, I can't remember exactly what you said word for word, you can, right? And then you fast forward to later where you had that communication that was very aggressive, and then also like the scratches and the marks on your shoulder. You know, I think what I had specifically said, you know, is to touch you on the shoulder. And so oddly enough, all those things lining up, although it was later in the night, everything that we had discussed or said to do to you, or that you complied and said you can do this to me, they all happened.
Yep.
And
which I don't know if you knew about any of this.
Yeah, because like that clip, is again, it was like we were wrapping up. We were getting ready to stand up and exit the jail cell, and you were kind of like joking and saying these things.
Yeah, I remember giving it permission,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, to do those things, but not cause me like
Well,
harm.
of course.
Yeah.
But I did, you know, give it permission to do
And
that.
then about
And
Melvin touching you on the shoulder and all that.
Yeah, and so it was just kind of weird as we started piecing this whole 3-part episode together. And, you know, as we already mentioned, Patrick and Morgan do like the majority of the review, and then I do the bulk of the editing. And then, you know, we'll have sessions where we meet up and they'll suggest how we should edit to, or how we should put the storyline together, because we try to keep everything pretty much in order as it took place.
Yeah.
yeah,
But as we have the episodes more developed and further along, and then we come back across that clip, and I was like, man, you realize that everything that we said in this clip actually happened, you know? And I was like, how weird is that? Like it was like a joke or a conversation, but then all of those events took place.
yeah,
I mean, just think about all the traveling that must be going on, you know, with the spirits between the schoolhouse and the jail. And by the way, there's a post office on this property. There's an old train station. There's other buildings that we didn't get the chance to investigate, but I mean, we will.
We'll be coming back. Yeah, you bet on that. We developed a great relationship with the staff here.
yeah.
They welcomed us back, and we have plans to return. And I have ideas on that return too. And I told Patrick some of these, and I don't know if you were there the day I talked about this. I was like, how cool would it be if we were all three, if we had 6 people or something like that, pairs of 2, and at the same time we all did the Estes method in a different building at the same hour.
Yes.
And
I like that.
that could be something really cool to try. We know and we recognize and we realize that most of our episodes have revolved highly around Spirit Box and Estes method, and it's not necessarily our goal. We do try all sorts of other things. In this instance, we did have the SLS with us the entire time.
Yep.
But unfortunately, the way that it was recording the video was some weird file type, and I'm pretty good with figuring things out, but I could not crack the code on getting that into a usable file type that we could view. But there was a moment that Morgan saw something when we were walking from the schoolhouse to the jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this was something that we weren't expecting or anything like that, but I was holding it, and I just lifted it up, and I could see on the screen it was almost like something was crawling across the parking lot. I mean, full on the ground. It wasn't raised, and it was like it was almost slithering. But unfortunately, like Melvin said, is we can't retrieve the footage. But I know what I saw, and I even stopped, and I was like, "Whoa, guys, did you see the screen?" And of course, nobody did. But yeah, I hope we can get all that figured out for the next investigation, because I know it's really hard to get things to map. It's not something that just happens by chance. It's either it's there
in an
or it's
empty
not.
parking lot.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what we're talking about with the SLS, I'll give you the short version of it. It's where you take a Xbox Connect device, the sensor that sends out all the infrared, and it maps whatever is in front of it. And the particular program we're using it for is to map out the outline or imprint of a person, and it shows it as a stick figure. So if a stick figure populates on the screen and there's not a human being standing there, where is that stick figure coming from? And so when she said she saw something kind of crawling across the ground, it emulated something of a human or person or something like that. So it sucks that we didn't get that clip, but hopefully we'll have the SLS up and running. But we're trying all sorts of things. We have the FLIR devices we used. We have some other ideas that we'll introduce later. I'll just tell you, the red cards. It's not necessarily a real technical thing, but it's just something fun.
Yeah, well, and of course, if you all have any ideas or have thought like, hey, I wonder, if this would work, post them in the comments.
Absolutely.
And we will most definitely consider, looking into doing whatever ideas you may even come up with.
Yeah.
And I can never remember the name of the device. You bought all the parts, we put it together.
So we're going to start using, it's called a portal box.
Portal box.
So it's going to eliminate the white noise from the spirit box.
Yes.
It's going to clear up some of the voices that come through. So on the next episode, you will see that.
Yep, and then if it's a bigger episode for us, I've also invested in the color infrared, whatever you want to call it. It's the night vision, but in color.
Ooh.
And those are stationary cameras, so that we'll be able to put those into 8 different rooms or 8 different areas and have continual recording from start to finish. So I think that's going to be something huge, because right now what we have to do is we constantly run back and forth. Oh, that GoPro's got about 30 minutes. Let's go check it in 30 minutes. This GoPro's got that much time. The Sony has this amount of time. And so we're constantly running and checking batteries, and we're making sure that the cameras are still running. So we spend a lot of our time chasing down these cameras and turning them off and on, where my goal is to be where we're not having to monitor these devices as much and we can investigate more.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to get off on a sidetrack.
No, no.
This is stuff we're planning for the future. I mean,
Yep.
this is something for everybody to look forward to. So
Yep.
I'm excited.
mean, more time investigating, more equipment, more advanced equipment,
Yeah.
new ways of investigating. I mean, it's just the beginning.
It's going to get fun.
And we really need y'all's help, guys. We want so badly to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube.
Yes.
It allows us to monetize our channel, which means that, even though it's pennies and we'll never make back the amount of money invested into this, it does help us, because as we're talking about equipment, all that stuff costs a lot of money. So if we can make a little bit of that back off of ad revenue from YouTube, it helps. So if you're already subscribed to our channel, we appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe.
Yes.
Please.
And tell your friends to subscribe. Take your wife's phone, your husband's phone, go subscribe. Go create some fake accounts if you want and subscribe. But yeah, is there anything else you guys wanted to mention or bring up?
In the schoolhouse? No, just that it has that old 1900 feel, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the floors creak with every step you take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's just real rustic and old. And there's even a new addition here. There's a vine growing through the window right now.
Yeah.
Yes. So I love this place. I can't wait to come back and try different stuff. But just wait. There's going to be other places we're going to investigate first. So get ready.
Yep. And that's another thing. If you have any ideas, any local lore that you think that we should look into, we're definitely about it. Any local stories, or, even if you know somebody who's having a possible issue in their home, let us know.
And actually, speaking of that, right? So one of our challenges is like a lot. We want to stick to Texas, but we're based out of Houston, and so many of the things that we're interested in doing are in other cities and things like that. And we're down. We'll go to those, but sometimes it's not exactly convenient to pack up and drive 5 hours or 7 hours somewhere and then spend an entire weekend. So if you know some spots in Houston or around Houston or within an hour of Houston, we know most of them, but we can't claim to know all of them. Maybe you know of a spot that's not as popular or as well known. So tell us the places you know. And an even bigger plus would be is if you have or know anyone that could give us access to these places.
Yes.
So if you run a place, somebody runs a place like the jail here, we kind of reached out to them on a whim, I think, right? You reached out to them, or somebody you knew them, right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, at the point when I first got a hold of the individuals that work here, there had only been 1 or 2 groups that have investigated this place.
Yeah.
And we really didn't know all the claims that were going on here until we actually drove up to do the investigation. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And also, guys, if you're ever in the Cold Spring area, during the Halloween season, come on by the jail. They have a little fall festival and a haunted house in the jail, which makes it even cooler. We're going to put a link in the description below for the Facebook page, so you can get all the information you need from that and pictures and stuff. So we all 3 of us want to thank you for hanging out and watching this ATI with us.
Yep.
We appreciate the love and support from all of y'all.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
And we want to thank Rebecca, Mike, and Clay as well for
Yes.
hosting
Yes.
us here and allowing us to use the space.
Oh, definitely.
Yes.
Thank y'all for sure. And until the next investigation.
All right, you gonna ask him about the stairs?
What was that?
That wasn't you?
No.
Who was that?
Did you hear it?
I did.
You didn't hit play or something on accident?
No.
It's recording?
No. I haven't even had a chance to.
All right, so we were about to go upstairs, and then we heard like a radio static noise or something, like right? Was it something like that?
Or I hissing.
Foot shuffling on like leaves. I don't know. Hold on.
No, to me it sounded almost like a. WTF?
That's why we're here.
What was that?
That wasn't you?
No.
Who was that?
Did you hear it?
I did.
You didn't hit play or something on accident?
What was that?
That wasn't you?
No.
Who was that?
Did you hear it?
I did.
Getting synced up.
And it's gonna be like in Conjuring. They're gonna clap back.
Stop.
And you know what? It would be like in one of these armoire type things in here, like this, right?
I don't like this.
Right here.
Stop.
This right here.
What has gotten into the two of you?
Is this right here? Bam! Look at you, Pat.